Good morning, everyone. Good to see you. Here it is, Friday. You know what Friday is, and it's Fun Friday. That's our title. And I have the Fun Friday girl back, and it's Joan. Joan, you keep coming up with good ideas because Christianity and life should be fun.
Yes, it should be.
I know we call them Fun Fridays, but I want us to enjoy every day.
I do too.
And I think we do,
Yes.
at least on this show. Anyway, so what have you have a quiz or something for me
As
or
you can,
something like that?
as you can tell, I have a lot of fun with Rick.
Yeah.
We just enjoy life together. So the normal shows start with a verse and we tell a story. So today I'm going to give two verses and tell the story, and then let Pastor Rick decide which verse really fits the story.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay?
Well, I only laugh because early on in the show's history, and people can look back on YouTube, but Dick Whitten was on,
Yes.
and he did a show on is this in the Bible or not?
Yes.
And I didn't score real high on that, but I got some.
Yeah.
We'll see. But this is like a one pass fail, over and done.
And I hope the audience knows we don't rehearse these shows,
No.
so he has no idea
Yeah.
what I'm going to talk about.
So you all play along with that could be the time.
Let's-
Play along with Joan.
Yeah, let's have
Okay.
a little fun.
Well, go ahead.
So the first verse is, "Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble on its own." That's from Matthew 6:34.
Love that verse.
Now the other one is different, and it's out of Psalms, and it says, "You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar." That's Psalms 139, verse 2. So I'm going to tell you a little story about what happened to me 54 years ago. I was expecting my first child.
So let's just, so you were what, 10 or 11? No, you couldn't be. No.
It was just before my 20th birthday that
Okay.
she was born.
All right.
And so I had read this magazine article, and it talked about these little girls who were 5 years old, and they'd been switched in the hospital. And neither family knew this until one of the little girls got sick. And so, of course, when they did a match to see what parent could help her, the parents didn't match. And
You
so
mean
they
like a
went
kidney
back.
or something?
Yeah, they went back and looked at the hospital records and realized these two little girls had been switched. Well, the big dilemma was, do we keep these little girls in the family that they're in, or do we switch them so that they're with their birth parents? And it was one of those things, and by the way, one of them's sick. And so it was one of those things where I think they were trying to sell magazines because the readers were supposed to write in and say, what would they do in that situation, you know?
Yeah.
Well,
It's a tough call.
I think it was because of my situation. The story really hit me hard. I mean, my heart went out to these two couples, and it was just an article that I read. So I started telling my husband about it, and I said, this could happen to us. And he said, oh, no, no. He was there to assure me that everything was going to be okay. And they have,
Because everyone wants the right kid.
obviously, and I'm worried now because this could be me. And he's saying, no, no, no. They have protocols, and they watch out for all of this. And that was 5 years ago, and it wasn't in our town. He could think of every reason in the world to tell me that
Right,
it was
but-
going to be okay.
But he wasn't going to.
So the last thing I said is, we really have to pay attention. We cannot let this happen to us. But it just plagued me that, it was just, I don't know if it was my emotions or what, but I just really felt for these two families. And so a couple weeks later, I went to the hospital and had this beautiful baby girl. And the day after she was born, the nurse came in and said, do you want to take a walk down to the nursery and see the babies? Well, of course I want to go down and see the babies.
And what had you named her?
Jane,
Jane. Okay.
named after her great-grandma. And so I walked down there, and here's all these little beds, and they have the little pink and blue tags so you can see it's boys and girls. And I was astonished. There were 11 babies in that nursery. 10 boys and 1 girl.
That okay? Statistically, that's unusual.
Unheard of, I think.
Okay.
I didn't pray about this, but God knew what was plaguing my heart. I wanted to make sure I took home the right baby, and I obviously did.
Yes, because although in my mind, and I am a man, so I say this as a stupid man, all babies look alike to me. And
Well,
so this is one area, though, you can't make that mistake.
no.
Boys are boys and girls are girls.
Well, and I was in a maternity ward, and the joke was there were 4 women in my room, and when they would bring the babies in, mine was the one with the pink bow. And they'd always say, "Well, that one's yours," and the other 3 had boys. Well, I didn't think anything
Yeah.
of that, you
I
know.
think moms are better, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. I
there's
agree.
no way. You knew Jane, and she was going to have her mom, and vice versa for sure.
But God comforted me.
Yeah, that really is awesome. I love that story.
Yeah.
And it's so typical of our loving Father. By the way, I am convinced beyond a doubt that God has a sense of humor too.
That's the trick. Yes.
And that's why we have sense of humor and why we
Yeah.
laugh and act. Because I actually believe God has a good time. And my guess
Yes.
is when he did that and they all had boys, he says, I know my daughter Joan is going to love this one.
Yes.
Look what I'm pulling here.
And
Don't you think?
to this day, I laugh when somebody
Yeah.
tells me their due date
Yeah.
because he's going to arrange it so that the right people are born on the right days. That's all there is to it.
So what's my challenge here?
Your challenge is
What's
which one of those verses fits that story?
well, about the not worrying.
Yeah.
What wasn't that one?
Okay, the one about not worrying is, therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will have worry for itself.
Well, that's what hit
Each
me.
day has
Yeah.
enough trouble on its own.
Well, that's sure what hit me because I think by giving all those boys to be born right then, he said, Joan, why are you worrying?
That's
I
what
had this under
he's
control.
got it.
So that's
But the other one was, you know, when I sit and when I rise, you perceive my thoughts from afar.
yeah.
He knew what was plaguing my heart.
Well, you were praying about it too, weren't you?
I wasn't praying. I was
Oh.
worrying. That was the problem.
Oh my goodness.
So he was comforting me because I wasn't taking care of praying.
That's really good. And of course, our pastor, Rick Warren, often says, don't worry about stuff, pray about it. He has a better way of saying it, but that's the gist.
But for our audience, I challenge you to think back about those times in your life when something happened coincidental. 1 girl, 10 boys. What are the odds? That's a coincidence. No, it isn't. It's an act of God. So if you think back in your life at those times when you think something that happened was coincidental, think again because someone had his hand in it. And I know that someone was.
Right. Well, both those verses are great. So if you out there in TV land had a different choice, that's okay.
Yeah.
But I got to say, for me, I love that verse because I do not enjoy worry.
Right.
I just don't. In fact, there's no verse that says worry. I just don't worry. I got to say, for the most part, it's not a part of my life. And it's because of experience. Well, it's because of the word, but it's also because of experience. It's just like God gave you.
It doesn't do any good to worry. So
No.
why worry?
Yeah.
So I think that's why at this point in my life, I don't worry anymore.
That's sure a lesson for today. And even that, so we're calling this Fun Friday. This was fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed your story. I enjoy those verses. So, Joan, as always, can you ever come back? I'm going to have you back on the show someday, so we'll have fun.
We
Hey,
live in the neighborhood.
Laguna Woods, thank you for tuning in today. Joan and the Bible gave us a lot to think about. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday morning.